It having reached the hour of 5:30, I am calling the April 23rd, 2024 Modesto City Council meeting to order and ask the city clerk to call the roll.
Vice Mayor Alvarez.
Here.
Councilmember Ricky.
Present.
Councilmember Bavaro.
Late and here.
Councilmember Wright.
Here.
Councilmember Williams.
Here.
Councilmember Squickia-Brayton. Here. And Mayor Zwellen.
Here. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation from Joe Duran from City Ministry Network. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I do not see Joe here this evening, so Councilmember Williams will give the invocation.
I look nothing like Joe. Let us bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for each and every one that is here. We thank you for the opportunity to peacefully enjoy government and to be able to work with the government. We thank you for each and every one of the citizens in this city that have allowed us to be who we are today. Help us to grow stronger together. Help us to grow in knowledge and understanding. Help us to have compassion with one another, and help us to do the work that you set us out to do. In your name we pray. Let everybody say amen.
Amen.
Sorry, Joe.
Thank you. Does the city clerk have any announcements?
Yes, Mayor. Just a reminder, public comment is 3 minutes, and there are blue speaker cards at the entrance of the chambers.
Thank you. Do any of the council members have any conflicts of interest? All right. Will the city attorney report out on closed session, please?
Yes, Mayor. The council met on an item under closed session. Today, no reportable action was taken.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is acknowledgements and presentations. Item 1, we have a proclamation declaring April as Earth Month. I will read the proclamation. It is vitally important that all residents in Modesto understand the need to support both our communities and nations' efforts to conserve natural resources, save energy, recycle, and move towards a sustainable future. The City of Modesto recognizes the importance of recycling and increased awareness of the need for waste reduction and recycling programs. During the month of April, the city, state, and entire nation make greater effort to emphasize values of sustainability and environmentalism. On April 20th, the city celebrates Earth Day in the Park, a collaborative effort involving City of Modesto staff, local businesses, and nonprofit organizations. This community event provides a regional forum for our environmental health and safety information exchange, enabling groups and individuals to educate, lead, and inspire every person to think globally and act locally toward positive environmental action and change in a family-friendly atmosphere. On April 22nd, groups around the world come together for an internationally celebrated Earth Day, and an annual reminder of the constant need for environmental activism, stewardship, commitments, and sustainability efforts. Now, therefore, I, Sue Zwellen, do hereby proclaim April 2024 as Earth Month in the City of Modesto and urge all residents to use this month to celebrate the Earth and promote environmental and climate action. And we have Mariah Hill here to introduce some of our California Climate Action Corps Fellows.
It's a bit of a
Welcome.
mouthful. Thank you, Mayor and City Council. My name is Mariah Hill. I'm the city's solid waste supervisor. Since September, I've had the pleasure of hosting 6 fellows from the California Climate Action Corps, a branch of California Volunteers, and AmeriCorps. They work with city staff on climate-related community service to support Senate Bill 1383. They're an incredible asset to our city and our community, inspiring us to take greater action to reduce climate change and bringing new perspectives and ideas. I'm proud to introduce 4 of our fellows: Bailey Kane, Clarissa Frias, Cheyenne Tigner, and Shaughnessy Brown.
Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Bailey, and I'm a Waste Reduction and Diversion Fellow with the California Climate Action Corps. Over the past 7 months, we've worked in the community educating businesses on how to properly sort waste and reduce organic material going to the landfill. We've worked with stores and with restaurants on donating excess edible food to those in our community experiencing hunger, and we've educated youth on climate change through school activities or community events. Thus far, this service has diverted over 10,000 pounds of organic waste from the landfill and engaged over 2,300 people in conversations on climate action. Every environmentally minded action in April celebrates Earth Month. This month, fellows have built partnerships with the local chapter of the California Native Plant Society, given presentations to local schools, and organized fun activities for kids and families at Earth Day in the Park at Crescenta, and visited California's newest state park just yesterday, Dos Rios Ranch, at the governor's Earth Day address. This fellowship has provided a wonderful opportunity for us to connect with and positively impact our community while sharing the importance of climate action. Over the next few months, we're looking forward to connecting with more community groups and nonprofits to hold food donation events. Thank you for this proclamation that shows the City of Modesto's commitment to environmental and sustainable action that reduces the impacts of climate change. I and each of the fellows here tonight are proud to accept this proclamation and continue our service to our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Please stay where you are. Are there any comments from council members at this time? Councilmember Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. I did have the opportunity to go to Earth Day on Saturday, and it was quite beautiful weather. I did get a bag full of all kinds of things for Earth Day, and I was very, very thankful that the City of Modesto and all of the vendors were there, and all of the young people and the parents and grandparents. It was a great day for Modesto, so thank you for putting together the Earth Day event that we had on Saturday.
Thank you. Councilmember Ricky.
Thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to thank you guys for your work on this. In a city like Modesto, unfunded mandates like this are really, really hard, as I'm sure you guys understand. And it just makes me feel good that we've got like some people here that are trying to help us make that transition, because it's really doing the right thing, but it's also causing a lot of pain in the community, especially on like the lower end of the income side. So thanks for your contributions, and I'm looking forward to seeing the results.
I, too, am so grateful for you and all of your efforts. And yesterday was quite a unique day. I was invited by the first partner, Jennifer Newsom, to attend this event, and then heard on the news yesterday that the governor would be there. I don't know, maybe you all knew that he was going to be there at a time
No.
I did not know. And then a special part of the whole event was that Dolores Huarte was there. So it was really a unique experience, and I'm so glad that I got to experience it with you, and that you did a beautiful job in your presentation to all of us, as well as I'm sure to the governor and first partner. And so I just truly appreciate you and all that you do to improve our community. So I will now bring the proclamation, and thank you so much for being here this evening.
Thank you.
All right, maybe I'll stand in the middle here.
You got fall colors.
I really don't have to.
Recycle. Recycle quick.
Is that it? You didn't tell us when. So I hope we're all looking.
You got the good moments.
Okay, all right, here you
Thanks
go.
again, ladies.
Thanks again. All right, next on the agenda is item 2, a proclamation declaring May is National Mental Health Awareness Month, and I will read the proclamation. Mental health is essential to everyone's overall health and well-being. Mental health conditions are common and widespread across our nation, affecting nearly half of us at some point in our lives. And all individuals may experience times of difficulty and stress in their lives. It is crucial that all residents feel encouraged and supported in seeking help and assistance during these times. And prevention, early identification, and timely intervention can effectively reduce the burden of mental health conditions just as they do with other chronic diseases, improving quality of life and health outcomes. Extensive research supports specific strategies and tools that all people can use to protect their mental health and enhance their well-being. Effective treatments allow those with mental health conditions to make significant progress towards recovery and lead productive lives. And it is the responsibility of businesses, schools, government agencies, healthcare providers, organizations, and all residents to promote mental health awareness and support the mental well-being of our community. And now, therefore, I, Suze Wallen, Mayor, do hereby proclaim May 2024 as National Mental Health Awareness Month in the City of Modesto and call upon all residents, along with public and private entities, to recognize this month by actively promoting and participating in activities that support mental health awareness, provide education on mental health issues, and advocate for accessible and effective mental health services for our residents. And this evening, to receive the proclamation, we have Steve Collins, Director of Behavior Health at the Center for Human Services. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, council members. So, I'm Steve Collins. I work for a nonprofit, the Center for Human Services. And I just want to start off saying that, as you kind of shared, mental health plays such an important role in all of our lives. It is wonderful to live in a community where we have so many providers. We have the ability to reach out to get the help we need. Because for so many years, there's been this stigma that, if you need to go to counseling, you're crazy, and we can't have that. And so bit by bit, we see that stigma reduce, and that is a normal part of life. I like to compare mental health to physical health. Sometimes we fall down, we scrape our knee. Sometimes we need a Band-Aid. Sometimes we need a cold compress. Sometimes it rises to the level where we need to seek professional help and go see a doctor. And mental health is no different. Sometimes we can just benefit from talking to a friend, talking to a loved one, a family member. Sometimes it rises to the occasion of needing to consult a professional. It reminds me of a story I once heard where this professor did a pop quiz on his students. And don't worry, I'm not going to give you the same pop quiz. But he looked at his students and he said, okay, write this down. He says, I want you to tell me who was the Major League Baseball World Series MVP 2 years ago. Next question. I want you to tell me who was the Grammy New Artist of the Year 3 years ago. Tell me who won the Super Bowl 3 years ago. Just don't say the Chiefs, okay? And they started asking all these questions, and people, they might get one or two right, but they weren't getting a lot of them correct. And then he said, okay, here's the second part of the quiz. Write down the name of someone who has been there to listen to you when you needed it. Write down the name of a teacher who encouraged you on some of your hardest days. How about a coach or a mentor? And unlike the first part of the quiz, everyone had to take some time and was writing down, oh, I remember this teacher, I remember this family, this friend, this, you know. And the professor then concluded saying, all the other stuff is wonderful. If you're the MVP of the World Series, fantastic job, everyone's happy for you. But that's not who we tend to remember. Who we tend to remember are the people in our lives that made a difference and helped promote mental health and just encouragement and love in our lives. And so then the professor concluded, and I will conclude with this, said, but each one of us gets to be that person for someone else. So thank you so much. It is very much appreciated.
Thank you for being here, and please stay here. Are there any comments from council members? Councilmember Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. Just real brief, thank you for all that you do for our community in the mental health area and field. And we're very proud of Chat, who helps us with some of our mental health individuals in our community. So that just adds to the help that we all need in our communities. So thank you. And you sound like your dad when you speak.
I do.
I wondered the connection. Now I get it. All right. Councilmember Escudia Brayton.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for that presentation. And I'm delighted that the city has was in favor of promoting this very important subject this month. Mental health, in particular, in this day and age, just impacts every single person. And it could be just a low-grade mental health condition to the medical mental health situation. And one never knows, because this particular issue comes in so many shapes and sizes and appearances. And I, by being more aware of it and having grace with others and approaching others and understand where they're coming from, I think, and with respect, we can get through this. And oftentimes people that deal with mental health issues feel that they're alone and can't. So extending extending an arm for help and connecting the dots, and of course government, city, county, and medical, they can provide services if necessary. But on a daily basis, I would encourage everyone to take care of your own mental health, starting with yourselves and that of your family and your community and your neighbor, but giving grace to others in understanding where there might be at the time, and just approaching it with, as you said, patience, love, and appreciation for mankind. So again, I'm delighted that the city has chosen to acknowledge this very important topic that impacts our families and our community. So thank you for your service in this area.
All right. Councilmember Bavaro.
Thank you, Mayor. The 2022 World Series MVP was Houston Astros' Jeremy Pena.
Well done.
All right. Yeah, I expected that. All right. Thank you for being here this evening, and I will now bring the proclamation down and present it.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Truly appreciate it. All right, next is item 3, proclamation declaring April as Autism Awareness Month, and presentation by the Modesto Police Department. I will read the proclamation. Autism is a complex, lifelong developmental condition that appears in early childhood and affects an individual's social skills, communication, relationships, and self-regulation. And the City of Modesto recognizes the importance of understanding, accepting, and appreciating individuals with autism, moving beyond mere awareness to actively supporting and empowering individuals affected by autism to thrive in every aspect of life. And the national theme for Autism Awareness Month in 2024 is Awareness, Acceptance, Appreciation, Moving from Surviving to Thriving, emphasizing the journey towards a more inclusive and supportive community. And in February 2024, the Modesto Police Department achieved a significant milestone by becoming the first police department in California to be recognized as a certified autism center by the International Board of Credentialing and Continuing Education Standards, demonstrating a commitment to better understanding and effectively interacting with individuals with autism. And this achievement not only enhances interactions between law enforcement and community members with autism, but also serves as a pioneering model for other law enforcement agencies to improve their training and awareness regarding developmental disabilities. And it is essential for our community to foster an environment where individuals with autism can fully participate, contribute, and excel in their personal aspirations and community life. And now, therefore, I, Suze Wallen, do hereby proclaim April 2024 as Autism Awareness Month in the City of Modesto and urge all residents to promote awareness, acceptance, and appreciation for individuals with autism. And now we will have, to accept this proclamation will be our Police Chief, Brandon Gillespie. Welcome.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. It's always an honor, and I'm excited about how the city continues to every year really celebrate autism awareness and bring awareness to the issue. But just as important, it's, the Modesto Police Department, I'm very excited about some stuff that we've been working on and what you just mentioned in your proclamation. But more exciting than that is that you know you're succeeding when you have ideas that aren't coming from top leadership, is that you have our line level personnel that are actually coming up with ideas on what we should be doing. And that's exactly what happened here with Modesto Police Department and some autism awareness, the certification and other things that we're involved in. Officer Charles Lockridge, who I'll call up here in a minute to give a few comments, really spearheaded this autism certification through his ideas that he came forward and brought up to our leadership, and we were more than happy to empower him to move forward with this stuff. And he's been really the catalyst and the driving force behind what we're doing at the police department as far as autism awareness. So could not be more proud of him and wanted to give him the opportunity to make a few comments.
Sure. Welcome.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here tonight representing the Modesto Police Department. Thank you, Mayor Zuwalin, City Council, and Chief for allowing me this opportunity. Modesto Police Department is the first law enforcement agency in the state of California to be autism certified. I have an exclamation point on that. I think that's pretty cool. Just under a year ago, I was on a call for service as a patrol officer. The call was for a family disturbance involving a mother and her 17-year-old son who was diagnosed with autism. At the conclusion of the call and after a lengthy conversation with the mother, I determined that our training that the officers received could be improved, especially dealing with individuals with autism and those in the special needs community. So I began to research types of training available to police officers regarding autism. The first few pages of my search revealed tragic stories and articles of officers encountering individuals with autism in which the officer did not recognize the subject had developmental disorders or issues and a use of force occurred. Not wanting my partners, my department, or our city to end up the same way, I knew that there had to be better training. That training, I was hoping, could assist officers in recognizing the signs of autism and give officers the knowledge on how to properly respond and communicate with these important members of our community. I located training that would be perfect for our department, and with the support of my sergeants, I wrote a memo outlining the problem, and I offered training as the solution. The command staff at Modesto Police Department was fully supportive of this initiative. Enter IBCCES, the International Board of Credentialing and Continuing Education Standards. I'll say IBCCES. They offered training designed specifically for law enforcement. This training covered areas such as what is autism, communication, elopement and safety, scenario-based practices, patient caregiver perspective, as well as mistaken mannerisms. In January of 2024, the Modesto Police Department completed autism training in which nearly 300 of our sworn and non-sworn and staff members completed a 2-hour autism awareness training, thus becoming the first department in the state of California to receive this certification. Since receiving this training, I have personally seen officers respond differently to calls for service involving individuals with autism. I can think of one particular call for service. It was a young boy who's nonverbal, diagnosed with autism, and he eloped from his residence in Southwest Modesto. As officers were responding on scene, they immediately began to coordinate with the air unit to search the waterways, the parking lots, and the parks in the area. Luckily, the young boy was found a few minutes later at a local convenience store. By the time I got there, I found the responding officer sitting on the ground of that convenience store with this nonverbal boy, offering him comfort and peace, while other officers were able to work out the logistics and coordinate getting the parents there. It was just one story that I have. I have many other stories I could tell about how this autism training is already being put into practice by our police department. Mayor Zawalin, City Council, and Chief Gillespie, thank you for your support in this initiative. Training like this and stories like this would not be possible without taxpayer support and support from the council. Thank you again for the honor of being here tonight and allowing me to speak on behalf of the Modesto Police Department. I have one more thing before I go. Shameless plug. The Modesto Police Department has created patches in support of autism awareness. We are selling these patches for $20. The proceeds do not go back to the Modesto Police Department, but they're going to be donated to the Carlos Vieira Foundation, a local agency out of Livingston that services 21 counties in the state of California, from Kern County all the way up to Shasta County. They offer the Direct Help Grant Program, which provides services, medical necessities, educational tools for families affected by autism and who live in California. Mayor Zawalin, this patch is for you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so
Well,
much.
I will give you $20 also. Thank you. I do not take gifts, but I would be happy to contribute for such a great cause. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is really inspiring. Any comments from council
I'll give them
members?
50 for that patch.
Any other takers? Go on one.
All right. Councilmember Wright.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. You know, Chief, this is one of the greatest things that we can do here in Modesto, and I commend you and your previous chiefs on the selection of officers. You know, as we know, it's hard to find officers in the state of California, and my hat's off to you because we are getting the cream of the crop when it comes to Modesto police officers, and they care for every member of this community. And thank you, officers, for what you do and bring this to our attention. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Councilmember Ricky.
Thanks, Mayor. I just want to thank you guys for just this kind of thinking. I think that in professions like law enforcement, sometimes it's hard to break out and be innovative. Your courage in doing that makes our city better, makes our city safer. And I just want to, do everything I can to support you guys in that kind of thinking, because it makes our city just a better place to be. So thanks.
All right. Councilmember Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with both of my colleagues with what they said about you and the department. But what I see out of all of this is when you treat one human being that way and you help them understand who they are and what they are to the point where you're compassionate, I think that will also bleed into every decision our officers make with every individual they encounter. And I think that is very important, and very thankful that you have brought this to the table. And can't say we give you a raise, but we will be buying one of those patches from you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I borrowed the $20 from Nick.
All right. Councilmember Bavaro.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to thank the police chief and his department for improving the culture of the Modesto Police Department. This officer, I believe, I did a ride-along with you.
Yes, sir.
At a K-9. This is true leadership right here, a compassionate police officer. We were in my district at La Loma Park and visiting. We went into the park and you were able to get your partner, your K-9 partner, and allowed some kids and their parents to play with your partner. And that's the kind of law enforcement that the city of Modesto and all cities need. And I look forward to doing another ride-along with you, Charles.
Welcome anytime, Nick.
All right, Councilmember Scudia Brayton.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Officer Lockridge, for this out-of-the-box thinking. Having a well-trained workforce, one that understands the diverse needs of our community, is invaluable. And this just added to the repertoire of tools on how to better service and keep Modestans safe. And I, being the mother of an autistic child, one that at first glance you would not think he has a disability, makes me feel like we're in safer hands and more understood than we would have been if the officers didn't have the training. So thank you for being proactive and presenting it, and thank you, Chief, for being receptive to something unique and different. But again, we're in a better position now, and I'm just grateful for your team and the training they've received. Thank you for your service.
All right, Vice Mayor Alvarez.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to echo the sentiments of my colleagues. I really want to highlight the empathy that our law enforcement our police department is showing to our communities, especially to the family in the Southwest Modesto, my district. And it doesn't go unnoticed, but I think speaking as the only millennial up here, it's important to highlight that, you know, the last 50 years, perhaps, maybe 60, autism has been viewed as a mental disability and recognized in academia, in places of employment. But previous to that, early century, it was written off as, oh, this person just bad egg. And so I really, as the youngest person up here, I grew up with that as normal. And being around peers, K through 12, and then undergrad, I served as a student government at the University of Idaho, and I directly advocated for students with disabilities in higher ed. And so working with the Disability Support Services offices there and being an advocate for students with disabilities at college, it really comes full circle now as a young professional here supporting and representing the community that I was raised in. It really hits home for me to be able to be a part of an organization that does view empathy as a priority in all of our engagement. So my hat's off to you, Chief, and to you and your team. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for being here this evening, of course, as always. We appreciate you, and I'll bring the proclamation down and my $20 to Doug.
Do you just have one patch? I only have one patch, yes, ma'am. Sorry.
I'll bring more.
Oh, okay. I made money because Jeremiah's going to give me $10 on top.
He's going to charge me interest. Beautiful presentation. All right, so
Here, I only have one
just
patch.
donate to the
Just one
cause.
patch. Oh, because you had it all. Oh, here, you stand here. I don't mean to.
Take it to the cause.
Charlie, just give it to the chief.
Not from even
I'll put it on.
Are we all? The whole gang here. Great. Here's some.
You guys ready?
We got it ready this time.
Alvarez, thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda, I think I have them twice right here. Put them together. Next on the agenda is public comment. As noted on the agenda, public comment will only be in person. Zoom will still be available for viewing and wordly translation. Does anyone wish to speak on any item under public comment? This is for items not on the council agenda this evening, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Anyone wishing to address the city council is asked to follow the rules of decorum. The rules of decorum are posted at the entrance of the chambers. I will now read the names from the blue speaker cards in the order that I received them. First is John Frayling.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members. Yesterday, the Supreme Court of our fine country heard oral argument on a case called Johnson v. Grants Pass. It's a case that involves homeless people who are on the streets. And from what I've understood from talking to legal scholars, they're not very optimistic about the results of this if you're a homeless person. There's a couple options. One option is that they could tweak the current statute, which is the Martin v. Boise case that we're all familiar with. Another option is they just say this is invalid. And if they do that, it's going to have an impact on the city of Modesto. If that statute is invalidated, a couple of things are probably going to happen. One thing that's going to happen is people may start congregating outside of communities. So instead of being inside of a community, you're going to be outside of a community. That's one possibility. Second possibility is there are small municipalities, say in Grants Pass, and the people are going to say, we can't stay in Grants Pass. We don't like the way they treat us. Should we go to Fresno? Nah. Should we go to Stockton? Ooh. Should we go to Bakersfield? No. Let's go to Modesto. So it's going to impact all the cities in California. We have 33% of all the homeless in the United States. So that's one possibility of a result that could happen. If that statute is held to be viable, then what's going to happen then is, unfortunately, Modesto is out of compliance. We have been out of compliance for over a year based upon the Martin v. Boise decision. I don't know what's going to happen. Is somebody going to say, this is now validated by the Supreme Court, we have to do something? And I think as a community, we have the ability to do something early so that whatever the result of that case is, it's going to come out in June, late June, I think they said the decision is going to come out. We should be prepared for dealing with people who are on our streets. There's a lot of different things we could do. I mean, one of the things I was thinking of, there are a lot of vacant buildings in this community. There are Toys R Us building, there's the old Long's drugstore. And I mean, we could have emergency shelters there. We could have places where people can go. We have to be able to do something to have a solution to this. So I'm saying this is something we have to think about because it's going to happen. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is Derek Castle.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, city staff. I want to thank especially Mayor Sue and Councilmember Williams for coming along to my bunya tree demonstration at Grisada Park on Earth Day on Saturday. For those of you who missed out, hopefully next year you can come along and find out about this really interesting historical tree. When you approved bridge housing in November, you approved two options. First option was to use vacant land and put on tiny cabins there. The second option you had was using pre-existing buildings such as church facilities and commercial properties. I said in January at the council meeting that I was really worried about where we were going with our bridge housing program. We know from the pit count there's hundreds of unsheltered folk who sleep on the streets around downtown and in the parks at night. However, it seems that the obstacles for moving them into bridge housing on vacant land seem to be huge, and yet we needed solutions rapidly. I suggested in January that we look at the second option that you approved, that of using pre-existing buildings. Specifically, I suggested leasing commercial buildings or warehouses to set up non-congregate shelter. Council member Ricky seemed to have a similar idea at the council meeting a couple of weeks ago. For many years I worked as a carpenter. I was involved in building quite a few of the important public buildings around Modesto. I've done a materials cost analysis for building small 8 by 8 by 8 foot tall bedrooms to be placed inside commercial buildings. The fire marshal almost certainly is going to require that those are built out of steel framework and fibre cement sheeting. But even with that, I cost them out at less than $1,000 each. They'd be easy for teams of volunteers to build. It would be easy to do fundraising. Folks currently sleeping on the streets would be thrilled to have a little tiny bedroom where they can lock the door to keep their meagre possessions safe. Somewhere where they can sleep at night without fear. Using commercial buildings like warehouses is something that you've already approved in concept. My hope is that you ask staff to look into whether this might be a simpler, quicker and more cost-effective way to at least get bridge housing started. Not only will you be helping unsheltered folk, but you'll be providing a huge benefit to downtown businesses, to the downtown parks and the neighbourhoods around them. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Next, Diane Cruzy. Hi there, welcome.
Hello. It's been a while. Good evening. I didn't think it was going to be worth doing it, but I think I love your proclamations. Earth Day is great, and the mental illness thing is also great, and so is the autism. And one of the things that all those have is homeless in their minds too, because folks, that's pretty much what's going on. So it'd really be nice if you guys could get some kind of a proclamation for homeless. But that isn't the reason I came here necessarily to say that. Everything that's inexpensive, you have rejected as a whole. Not all of you, but as a whole. Bridge housing is not going too well, as we know. Nobody wants anything in their backyard. We know that too. And some people think you have to have bootstraps to get yourself out all by yourself. And of course, if they don't have shoes, that's kind of difficult. But the warehouses and the unhoused things, places that have nothing on them. I mean, I can think of a piece of property I saw on the corner of, almost on the corner of Norwegian and Bridgemore. It's cyclone fenced and it's empty. And it's got grass. So it seems like you could maybe take one of these vacant buildings, especially if it's aluminum steel or something like that, and it'd really be low cost. And you wouldn't even have to put in the tiny 8x8s, because you could people could bring in their own tent, and then if they have to leave during the day, it would be monitored and nobody could be stealing. So I urge you to try to look at something besides what's not working. I mean, even the state has now found out that most of the things that they have presented and backing are not doing well. And the people, even when they go back into these hotels and motels, they wind up back out on the street. That's because you're not really doing anything about the reason they're there. And I know you can't give them money, but you might help them learn how to be normal again and be able to be like other people and have some self-respect, because they've lost it, partly because of where they are, and and maybe why they are there. And they're not all druggies, and they're not all alcoholics. You know that for sure. I mean, you could even put families in one of these buildings and say, this is family only. And then in this other building over here, you could say, okay, this is for everybody. But it's just, if you don't do anything, folks, you're failing. And that's really bad, because these folks are the ones that you're failing, and they're still there. And like the gentleman before me, they're going to grow. It's not going to get better, because it just isn't, because you're not doing the right things. And that's the way it is. Thank you for listening.
You're welcome. Next, Dylan Woolman.
This is the microphone right here, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, ready.
Okay.
Basically, I've heard about what the Modesto Police Department have said about the National Autism Awareness Month, and I wanted to bring up that I'm all for it, especially because I am high-functioning autistic myself, and it would be very great for our city to have a month dedicated to not only autism awareness, but also combating autistic stereotypes. And even though I don't know their names, like, of the officers, I just want to say thank you, and I hope they continue to sorry, I'm like starting on my words. Sorry about that.
It's all right.
All I'm saying is I hope they continue to be more educated when it comes to handling those who have autism. And not only that, but it would also be good to, because the thing is with our police department is that before we became more aware when it came to those with autism, they usually just treated those who had autism like, oh, you must be like crazy, or oh, you must be like on drugs or something. And the fact that autism is being taken seriously as a diagnosis, all I can say is thanks, and that is everything I need to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Council.
for being here. Right. Next is Katie Minges.
Thank you very much. First of all, the Friends of the Library that are here with me in support would like to thank each of you for the public service you give. I know it's not easy to leave your friends and family and give your time like this, so thank you on behalf of all of us. If you are 9 or 94 or 4 and you walk into a library, the first things that you can find are unicorns, or perhaps adventure, or the ways to make bacteria, or perhaps it's the recipe to make wine and become the largest public held winery in the world, named Gallo. Libraries hold worlds of secrets. They also hold technology. And we are here asking for $500,000 from the city to make our downtown library a vibrant, amazing place that it needs to be. Libraries today are the most important things we can give, especially in our city right now. We're losing 2,500 senior employed people in the next year, and we need to attract talent. And that talent comes into the downtown libraries looking to see what's in Modesto. The way they find it is through our technology center, our computers, our Wi-Fi, our books, and to see what's down there. What we have down there is a vibrant children's story hour. Many of your children, grandchildren, and some of you used our story hour. We have trailing parents that come in and they go look at our computer system. They look at our community bulletin board. A lot of them use our passport desks that some of you may not even know we have. What we need is to upgrade that, and we in the private sector come to you, our city leaders, and say we need help. Now, we're raising a lot of that money to do our upgrades. We're raising $3 million, and we're asking for $500,000 from you to help. We need to have common, beautiful areas to sit in so people are comfortable. We need to have those small classroom spaces built out so our children who do group projects don't go to homes that are dangerous and come there after school to do them. We need book clubs to be able to meet there. We also need to be able to know that we have the most vibrant space there, that when every visit that goes in there comes back into our community and uses that 23% halo spending effect into our downtown businesses, retail, and restaurant, and comes back into our community. That's what our library does. We know for a fact that it's the most important thing we do in our society is to have knowledge. That's what we leave in our society. So thank you. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for the gift. Thank you for everything you do for our community, and we appreciate it.
Thanks. All right. Next is Chris Murphy.
Got the lowriders in the house, friends of the library. That was awesome. Thank you, Modesto City Council, for being here. Thanks for all you do. We're here today because we had a little complication with a building down the street that we need your help. We need your help and direction, and we need to kind of set a new path on how we deal with these things in the future. As you know, the 833 Steakhouse down here is up for sale or is potentially sold. And the issue, from my perspective, is what do we do with these historic buildings that have significance, architectural significance? How do we protect them? The problem right now is we do not have a firm set of guidelines to protect our landmarks and our historic buildings. There's no mechanism really to make sure these things don't happen in the future. And on this particular event, a lot of people who voted for this project were from out of town. They're from Waterford, Newman. They don't understand what we're trying to accomplish in downtown Modesto. We have a vibrancy issue. We have a nightlife issue. We're trying to be at 24/7. These are all Modesto goals, but these goals are unknown to people that are making these outside decisions. And so we need a clear policy. Example, we had the whole downtown master plan program. We got people from all over the place. We get down, we put sticky tabs all over the wall and said, here's what we want. We got that. We have these cool buildings, retail, professional, live, work, train station. What'd we get? A drive-through Starbucks on the most busy downtown intersection. That's just bad planning. It's bad execution. So we need to fix that. So I'd like your support in getting these commissions fulfilled, getting the council and the city's support behind them, and let's encourage these people. I'm a volunteer. I volunteer on my boards. I'm volunteering to help build the Modesto, the Graffiti Museum. I'm volunteering to help support the library. These are people, we are trying to get this city going in partnership with you guys. So let's make these commissions work. Let's staff these commissions. Let's give them the support. Let's give the guidelines so we know how to protect our history. It's not the new stuff that people like. It's the character of our city that people like. In the 60s, we tore it all down. There's very few buildings left. So let's engage the young people in town who want to serve on these commissions, who are our next generation, and they're the ones we're trying to bring back. So if we get the 20-year-olds and the 30-year-olds, they're the ones telling their friends that Modesto's a cool place to be. So I really appreciate your support. Let's make these commissions work. Let's staff them. Let's have meetings on a regular basis. Let's get agendas so that we reward the volunteer spirit. And let's have clear guidelines on how we make Modesto truly just a great city for the next generation. We're here to help. We're counting on you guys. So thank you for all you do. Have a great evening.
Thank you. All right, next is Harrison Power.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council, and City staff. My name is Harrison Power at 421 Bonita Avenue. I'm 27 years old, proudly, and currently serve on the city's Landmark Preservation Commission, but I'm here tonight speaking on my own behalf. I'm here this evening to voice my support for historic preservation efforts by the City of Modesto. The preservation of our city's history and significant buildings must be a priority, as historic preservation allows for community and economic development through maintaining architectural diversity and tangible connections to Modesto's past. In other words, preservation helps foster strong community identity and economic success through authenticity and the celebration of a shared history. The news of changes planned for the mid-century modern 1965 Modesto Savings and Loan at 833 10th Street is now the latest example in a string of recent events bringing attention to significant historic resources in Modesto and the potential impacts to their historical and architectural integrity. The Landmark Preservation Commission, like any other city volunteer commission or board, must be empowered by the city and city council to be able to act on behalf of the public. The city code establishes oversight functions for the Landmark Commission of proposed changes to landmark-eligible resources in Modesto, in addition to overseeing the city's landmark preservation program. If this oversight mechanism of the LPC were to be fully implemented, the community would have access to public feedback and review on proposed changes to many of Modesto's downtown icons and historical buildings, regardless of landmark designation status. I invite your support of the Landmark Preservation Commission at this time and welcome an opportunity to discuss your goals and visions for historic preservation in the future. Thank you very much, and my 3-month-old daughter also welcomes your support of our historic preservation. Thank you.
All right, thank you, and congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, is there anyone else wishing to come forward to speak under public comment? This is for items not on the agenda. I have all the blue cards, they're gone, so please come forward.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Roy Bozarth. I live at 1421 Remington Place. I'm a 70-year resident of West Modesto. My house is one house from the empty lot at the Church of the Brethren on Woodland Avenue. And I'm also a spokesperson for the concerned Woodland West community. I'm speaking tonight in protest of the Church of the Brethren's suspended proposal, Peace Village. We do not believe this is a proper location for this bridge housing project. This project would be within a few hundred feet of my front door, and there are neighbors closer. Derek Castle's statement that this is on hold, and it's on hold to talk to the neighbors and explain what we have been planning to do, among other statements, leads us to believe that they are fully intend to continue with this project. We do not need the church to explain to us what this project is. We have a copy of their proposal to the city, and including on page 28, I quote, "Engage early with the neighbors so they can be part of the process." This did not happen. Our first knowledge of this project was on May 18th when we saw surveyors in the field behind the church. The project was already in phase 1 with the City of Modesto. Also on page 29, I quote, "We would be willing to go ahead with a village no matter what the level of neighborhood opposition is, because we would be confident that we had done the best to address all reasonable concerns. If we believe this is God's calling upon the church, we will have both a faith and moral obligation to help those in need." Stating that they have engaged the neighborhood and didn't, and that they will be engaging the neighborhood and haven't, and they basically really have stated that they don't care about the neighborhood, enraged the neighborhood. So I have petitions here with over 500 signatures collected in less than 1 month in protest of the Peace Village. We ask that the council consider this when the church comes back with a revised proposal or a new proposal. So we would like some consideration with this. We'd like some notice. So my time is up.
Thank you. Thank you. And feel free to give this to our city clerk, Diane.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward to speak under public comment? Yes.
Good evening. My name is Zaf. Anyway, last week the Finance Committee held a workshop, about the new budget. I was here attending the first meeting, and I watched the second meetings online later those days. And there are a few things that caught my attention, but the main things that caught my attention is that at the end, when the budget manager made his presentation for the committee, he talked about $8 million deficit in a general fund. And he mentions that the $8 million going to be covered by Measure H. And I was kind of like surprised first. Nobody asked any question about it. But also, he explains that those things are under what Measure H supposed to cover. But to me, this is exactly why people don't like to support all those measures. And the thing is that if I was one of you and the committee voted to bring it to the council, if I was one of the people on the council, I wouldn't vote for that budget. I would vote for a budget less, that proposal less the $8 million. And I would tell the city manager to get all the people in a city to figure how all those head of departments, how to cut $8 million, and if not, you should just vote for the budget less the $8 million. Because I tell you what, we all remember where the state of California been just 5 years ago, $125 billion surplus. And today, the state of California, it's in a deficit of almost $80 billion. And I think it's your responsibility, you're responsible for the taxpayer money. And it's your responsibility to make sure not to spend a penny more from what you have. And even if you're going to tell me that this money going to projects that under Measure H, you know, what you're going to do if next year you be in a $29 million deficit? Are you going to vote for it too? So I think you should vote against that budget and vote for a budget that it's with no deficit. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else that would like to speak under public comment at this time? Hi there, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I just want to speak in support of what Mr. Murphy has said about the preservation of our architecture here in Modesto. And I'll give you a case in point. I know it's a private-owned property, but you remember the Victorian house on the corner of Orangeburg and College? Well, I drive by lately, and now it's all in stucco. It used to be a Victorian-style home that had a little character to it. I know that people had struggles trying to restore the home, but that's just a case in point because it had character to that neighborhood, character in that area. So we're losing slowly but surely the how you want to put it, the architecture of Modesto that wants to entice people to want to come and have some tourism, to see the history of it. I watch a guy on YouTube at times, he's called History Hunter, and he covers over areas in the Modesto area, Stanislaus County, and it's quite enriching and educational because there's buildings you drive by, you would never think there was a significant story behind it. And this gentleman goes and does that. So I agree with Mr. Murphy that we need to start looking seriously about doing something to try to save our buildings, because another good example, A&W Root Beer. The drive-in there, I mean, that was a great focal area for people to come and congregate. People that came here for our graffiti week, they come to A&W, but now that's gone, so where are they going to go to now? So This is something that needs to be seriously considered and looked into. So thank you.
You're welcome. All right, anyone else for public comment? Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for letting us be here and express how we feel. My name is Etta Thompson, and I'm also agree with some of the people that spoke about the homeless with Measure H, about building homes at the Brethren Church and that property. I live right across from there, and I believe in helping the homeless because we all need help at some time, but that would not be the proper place for that because they're too far away from downtown. Downtown, they have more access to like the police department in case they having any kind of problems or issues coming up. There's a lot of mental health clinics there. There's hospitals there, so they would have more access to the to be able to have be able to access all of that, and so it's there's so many other places also in other areas like empty buildings. There's empty hotels. There's a lot of open field, so that's a much proper place because there's a lot more empty buildings and empty places for them to house the homeless. And it won't probably be spending too much money. But I'm just a little nervous, sorry. But yeah, so I just want to express that I don't agree with building little homes right at the church property because it's residential and it's just not the proper place for it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, thank you. All right, any other public comments at this time for items not on the agenda? Seeing none, next on the agenda is consent items. An item may be removed from consent and discussed at the request of a member of the public or council member. Is there anyone on the council that would like a consent item removed for further discussion? Seeing none, is there anyone in the public that would like an item removed from consent for further discussion or comment? Seeing none, will the city clerk please read the consent items?
Item 4, consider approving the minutes for the April 9th, 2024 council meeting. Item 5, consider approving the establishment of interfund loans from the general fund to Fund 3224 city-led specific plans in the amount not to exceed $675,000 and approving the consultant services agreement with De Novo Planning Group for specific plan services for $650,000 over 3 years. Item 6, consider approving a Fourth Amendment to the Construction Management Services Agreement with WSP USA Incorporated for the SR 132 West Freeway Expressway Phase 1 project for a total amount not to exceed $13,289,933. Item 7, consider accepting an informational report for the February 2024 Accounts Payable Payment Register and Void Report. Item 8, consider approving the agreement for sewer and storm pipe and fittings to Ferguson Waterworks out of Modesto, California for a total amount not to exceed $875,000 over 5 years. Item 9, consider approving a Second Amendment with Ferguson Waterworks out of Modesto, California for the purchase of circle clamps, gaskets, pipe couplings, tapping sleeves, and sewer materials to a total revised amount of $2,995,000 over 5 years. Item 10, consider approving the agreement for uniform and laundering services for citywide locations to Aramark Uniform Services out of Burbank, California for a total amount not to exceed $1,120,000 over 7 years. Item 11, consider approving an agreement for the polling and survey administration services to Zen City Technologies Incorporated out of Wilmington, Delaware, and the First Amendment to Pobolowski Research LLC, San Francisco, California, for combined amount not to exceed $839,900 over 5 years. Item 12, consider amending the classification plan to move the positions of Park Ranger from range 1114 to range 1119 and EMS coordinator from range 437 to range 442. Item 13, consider approving the agreements for on-call plumbing services to Mark III Construction DBA M3 Services out of Sacramento, California, and Champion Industrial Contractors Incorporated out of Modesto, California, for a total combined amount not to exceed $593,127 over 5 years. Item 14, consider accepting the State Water Resources Control Board Expedited Drinking Water Grant Program Award of up to $7,115,592 for the Riverdale Park Track Community Services District Consolidation Project and entering into a funding agreement.
All right, may I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by Councilmember Wright and a second by Councilmember Escutia-Brayton. Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Vice Mayor Alvarez.
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky. Councilmember Bavaro.
Aye.
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
Councilmember Wright.
Aye.
Councilmember Escutia-Brayton.
Aye.
And Mayor Zwellen.
Aye. The motion carries unanimously. Next on the agenda is council comments and reports. Do any of the council members have any comments and reports? Councilmember Bavaro.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. The weekend of April 6th, we had that horrible storm. And in my district, there was a tree that went down and totaled out one of my constituents' daughter's car. That was on Saturday, April 7th, or 6th. Sunday morning, I received a call early in the morning on Sunday from my constituent asking me to go down and take a look at the situation, which I did. And when I got there, people in the neighborhood were coming out of their homes, and I said, oh man, I'm going to get an earful on this one. And actually what they were coming out, and they said, we just want to let you know that the city employee who came out to take care of our situation went beyond his job duties. His name is Jose Magana. He's in the Department of Forestry. And they had said that he'd worked there 3.5 hours in the rain, cleaning up the tree, was sympathetic and compassionate to the person who lost their car, and just provided not only good customer service, but cleaned up an area and made it safe, and he was by himself. So as a council member, I want to acknowledge Jose Magana for the great work and going 110% beyond his duties. And he also, I believe, works under the Parks and Recreation, or not Parks and Rec, under the Public Works, correct? And I believe you received some calls also from people in that neighborhood, if I'm not mistaken. So kudos to Jose. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Any other comments and reports from council members? Councilmember Ricky.
Thanks, Mayor. First of all, I just want to thank everybody that participated in the first garage sale fest. It was 250 garages, and they gave an inspirational spring cleaning, selling merchandise, upcycling, instead of throwing items away. It was really amazing, and so I'm kind of looking forward to this becoming an annual Modesto tradition. So thanks everyone that participated, and thanks to Visit Modesto for doing such a great job promoting it. I also want to talk a little bit about our library. Great communities value extraordinary public places for gathering, for learning, and for finding peace. Investing in our library makes our city better, it makes our downtown better, and it makes our library an even brighter architectural landmark. The City of Modesto doesn't own the library, this is totally true, but its people do. And so I think we should work together with the county to take a good library and make it a great library. And finally, I want to talk again about our ADU dashboard. That's for people that are trying to build granny flats, mother-in-law quarters on their properties. It's one of the best ways that we can increase our housing inventory, and a way we can do it quickly. So if you just Google Modesto ADU dashboard, you can download free pre-approved building plans. They'll tell you how to get lower fees. It'll tell you how to get tax incentives. So not only does it increase our housing stock, but it also builds equity in your property and can offer you an income property for retirement. Thanks so much, Mayor.
You're welcome. Next, Councilmember Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. I too support the library and its fullness, and I would hope that there are others in the city of Modesto, not just Modesto or the city council, but others who can contribute and give to the beautification of it, into the inside of it, not so much around the area, but the library is a very important piece for our citizens of Modesto. Particularly, we want jobs, and we want jobs to come to our community, and they can come to our community, but our community has to have some level of learning and learnedness, and they can get that from the library. They can get that from the library to where it would help them. We have so many people in our community who are illiterate, and thanks to the Learning Quest and Learning Center here we have in Modesto, they help with that. But a library is very important to have, and I am hoping that City of Modesto will jump on board and help them with the $500,000 that I feel like we could do. Beyond that, Cinco de Mayo is going to be coming up on the 4th of May. That is in District 2, and perhaps Councilman Eric Alvarez may want to add to that. But this coming Saturday is Love Modesto. Love Modesto. I have a project that we're working on called Beautify McHenry. We're fortunate to have, to date, I looked at this morning, 135 volunteers. We can always use more. I just got a call this morning about Walmart on McHenry wanting to jump on board with that. Last year we had a wonderful time with Councilwoman Scudia Brayton. We were going from place to place on McHenry, making sure they had waters, doing photos and encouraging them. And hopefully she's going to be doing that again this year with us. But we will have a stop where you can actually go and get some beverage, get some hot dogs, compliments of Tony's Plumbing, so many other sponsorships that have come in with that, and we're thankful for that. But Walmart came in and said that they're going to want to participate. We normally would start at 5 Points and end at Stanford and Sylvan, but because Walmart is joining, we will be able to go from Sylvan all the way to Pellendale, Clarentina, which is near their area, and they are very excited. They have signed up about 10 to 15 of their employees, and so we're excited about that. Let's beautify McHenry. If you do not want to beautify McHenry, you can beautify another area of Modesto. Just go to Modesto, lovemodesto.com, sign up to any one of the projects, 100 projects that are there. Look forward to beautifying not only McHenry, but beautifying Modesto. And that's Saturday. This Saturday, the rally starts at 7:30 in the morning. You can buy a breakfast there downtown at that location, which is on the corner of 10th and I. So I would hope those who are here, those who are out there, and those who are on the air would hear me, and they would be a record number of folks beautifying the city you live in called Modesto. Thank you, Mayor. I think I took up enough time.
All right, you're welcome. Any other council members that have comments and reports? I would just like to briefly speak on the newest state park in the state of California that is in Modesto, California. This was a really great occasion yesterday to have the governor and his wife here, his first partner, and also Dolores Huerta. As I mentioned before, it was a very unique opportunity to share with them the dedication of this park. You literally drive out Paradise Road and turn left on Shiloh Road, and it's a very short distance, and you take a path to the right. It's just beautiful. It is restored to its original condition. This is a partnership that has required many, many partners, a lot of money to restore this area. And it is our newest state park called Dos Rios, and it will open June 12th. There are picnic areas there. Once they get more funding, they hope to make it a real educational piece. The wildlife is returning. The animals and birds and species that we have not seen in a very long time are coming back. So I'm very excited about this. We do not have very many state parks in the Central Valley, so this is an addition to that. And the governor did a beautiful job of highlighting all that California offers. We have the grandest trees, we have the highest mountain in the lower 48 states, we have the ocean, and now we have a state park right in our very own city. So I was very excited about that, and I hope that others enjoy it in the future. It's absolutely beautiful and very peaceful, very peaceful. Thank you, everyone, for your comments and reports. Does the city manager have any comments and reports? All right, next on the agenda is hearings. Item 15, hearing to consider an ordinance repealing and replacing Modesto Municipal Code Title V, Chapter 9, providing definitions, permitting requirements, and operating standards for adult-oriented businesses, along with adding permit provisions for adult performers and non-performers at adult-oriented businesses, and amending Title 10, Chapter 3, Article 3, regarding definitions for adult-oriented businesses. Welcome, Jessica, for our staff report.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. Jessica Hill, Director of Community and Economic Development. So for a little bit of background, adult-oriented businesses involve adult-oriented material, merchandise, or activities. And municipalities are required to zone for a range of potential sites for adult uses. Our current ordinance has not been updated since 1997, despite ever-changing changes in the adult fair industry. So the purpose of this ordinance today is to update to align with case law and industry best practices, provide the state-of-the-art definitions, and provide for the most up-to-date operational standards. So our ordinance updates are in three main categories: location, definitions and determination of adult-oriented business applicability, and regulatory permits. So for cities, there are certain locational criteria for adult business. And in a recent case from Topanga Press versus the City of Los Angeles, the courts ruled that jurisdictions must allow for adult uses in locations in relevant real estate market. And so the City of Los Angeles had issues because they were only allowing them in landfills, hospitals, sewage treatment plants, etc. So what the city did was an overview of their location and the criteria. So for City of Modesto standards, adult businesses are allowed in industrial zoning, or M1 or M2, 300 feet away from residential uses, parks, churches, places of worship, or schools, and then 500 feet away from another legally permitted adult use. So on the screen above is the highlighted areas in purple, which are M1 and M2 zones. The study the city embarked on determined that the city had sufficient amount of sites available, so there are no changes to the proposed location criteria. One of the largest changes we're suggesting are under the definitions. And so for adult bookstore, it has a current definition where 30% or more of its stock cannot be adult material. Otherwise, you're classified as an adult bookstore. And so our recommendation is to replace the 30% threshold with regular and substantial. And so removing the percentages was able to have staff look at the operation as a whole and allowing the city to accurately identify adult uses. And currently businesses can circumvent that application of adult use with that percentage threshold by minimizing the proportion of adult materials and non-adult materials. Also, the definition regular and substantial has been used by many other cities and upheld in case law. Next up is our regulatory permits. So regulatory permits are required for all adult businesses, and staff is recommending to add the following items to our regulatory permit. These are similar requirements to what we use for our cannabis businesses, and that's including a background check for all employees, installation of security cameras in parking lots, 24-hour security for live entertainment businesses, and lighting requirements for all adult uses. So in summary, we're proposing the update to our Muni Code to align with case law and industry best practices, to make sure that our definitions are updated as well, and then that our operational standards and regulatory permits have different additional provisions in place. If approved tonight, the second reading of the ordinance will be on May 7th, and then the ordinance will be effective 30 days following that on June 6, 2024. I do want to point out there is a small change in the ordinance, which is attached to the back of the PowerPoint on page 17, which helps clarify the correct hours of operation. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much for your presentation. Questions from council members? Councilmember Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. Jessica, thank you for your presentation. My question is, does this regulation apply to current businesses that are in the City of Modesto, adult businesses?
So
Once it's approved?
So our intent as staff is to ensure that we put those provisions to any future businesses in the City of Modesto.
Is there any way we can include current businesses, give them a 6-month window or whatever to bring up to standards?
And maybe I could jump in here, Councilmember. So the intent of the ordinance, how we drafted it, was to obviously look at businesses coming in, but the ordinance does provide leeway in looking at current businesses. We are looking at the permitting requirements, for example, for different locations, and then different as far as the requirements go. But the intent of the ordinance initially was drafted in order to kind of see when businesses come in. But the ordinance does provide some leeway to look at current businesses.
So my next question would, if there was a change in ownership, would that be cause for them to have to follow the new ordinance?
If there was a change in use, for example, like you're talking about kind of legal non-conforming uses for in certain situations when a use, for example, stops and then reopens, we would take a look at whether they would have to comply with new regulations, and ordinances would now take in effect to them. Again, this ordinance does provide some flexibility. Again, the intent is to look toward forward-looking to businesses coming in, but it does provide some flexibility for us to look at current permitting standards, for example, to have current businesses comply with permitting standards.
So if you had a change in ownership, it was the same business, but just a change in ownership, are you saying that we could look at this new ordinance?
We could take a look at the new ordinance even with the existing ownership, but if there's a change in ownership, we would look to see whether it triggered our sections related to kind of almost classifying it as a new business. But with businesses, usually when you look at whether the use stopped. And if it's only a change in ownership, the use is still in place, if that makes sense, because you're looking at did the use actually stop.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Bavaro.
Thank you, Mayor. With regards to the background check on all employees, is that to be administered by the employer, or how is that going to be done?
So the adult business regulatory permits are actually managed by the Modesto Police Department. And so they'll have a formal application to submit, and then the Modesto Police Department would run those background checks.
For the employees?
For the employees.
And
so
the
they would have to give, correct.
And ongoing, as the time goes on, as employees have separation of employment and they hire new people, is that?
They would be required to then have those new people have background checks.
How do you monitor that?
It's going to be constant communication with the businesses. I mean, we do this same process actually with our cannabis industry, and the cannabis owners just know that anytime an employee does change, they actually bring forward that employee for approval from the city prior to actually hiring that employee.
Do we have any mechanisms in place to audit them, to make sure that they're doing that?
So at any point in time, if there's a concern that all of the background checks aren't done for the individual employees, the PD or our code enforcement could actually go out there to ensure that they are abiding by those terms.
Okay. And is there a criteria on, like, no, we're not going to let this person work here, or because what's going to constitute in the background check their eligibility to work there?
So I think the overall concern, and I'll speak to how it's been working in the cannabis-related industry. So it's something that is concerned when actually there's some theft associated with the business, if there is a drug concern against the background check. And so I'll have to, work closely with PD, but I do assume if there's something related to the adult business industry that they have a previous charge against them, that would be something that would come up and trigger some sort of flag under the background check.
Okay, and finally, what penalties are going to be in place should the employer not follow the background checks as required and turning in the new employees' names? What's the penalty, if any, for that employer?
So I think overall, as our first goal as a city is to ensure that we bring everyone into compliance through the communication of each of the ordinances. The second thing is what has happened, and I will speak to it through code enforcement, is they would go out and do an inspection, have a citation process, a notice of violation, and then we would bring it forward to notice and order if needed. Again, every goal is to ensure that we then bring the business up to compliance and within our City of Modesto regulatory requirements.
At what point would that person lose their license, their business license, or for not following? I mean, is it so many citations, or?
Jose, do you want to?
Yeah, I could definitely jump in.
Thank you.
So the ordinance is set up, and to answer kind of your first question regarding the background checks, the ordinance does have certain criteria regarding what type of crimes, for example, and how long ago those crimes happened, as far as anything in their background check. Most of them related kind of to type of sex-related crimes. As far as your permits, there is a violation section, as Jessica mentioned, related to penalties if you're not complying with the ordinance itself. I think it depends on how egregious a business is. As mentioned, that first step is to work with folks, make sure to say, hey, you're violating the ordinance. But when you see that there's folks that are just not following it, then you go into the process set forth in the ordinance for either revocation or suspension. And that requires a hearing, but that you would go through that process as well.
Okay, so there's a process in place, I guess.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. Couple of things. First of all, Jessica, I know you've been working on this since 2022 or 23, beginning of 23, and have gotten to this point. So thank you for that. And a lot of folks were wondering when this was going to come up. So thank you. My question is, did we look at other city ordinances and have they been updated, or is it like ours, or was like ours, it dated back to several years back? That's one question.
So we did review many different local jurisdictions and what they did. I would say over 15 to 20 local jurisdictions, and also ensured that we aligned with case law. And so what we wanted to do is, case law that did come up, we wanted to ensure that our ordinance was in conformance with that case law as well. So we did both.
And then lastly, maybe you mentioned it, but on the on-street display area, did you mention anything about that? Is this in our report as far as what is visible, what is allowable to be visible, and what is not?
So I do believe specifics are outlined in the ordinance. I do want to say that each business overall, no matter what, if they're in the City of Modesto, would have to follow our formal sign code as well, which limits, amount of time you can have a banner up, and then the size of actual your business name as well. So there are some provisions in that respect for businesses overall for the city.
So also a window decor.
And window decor itself, I think it really focuses on, if it's identified an adult business in that zone. I would have to do some further research on the window decor and if it's limiting for a period of time or a percentage of the window.
Particularly mannequins and things of that nature is what I'm referring to. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Escudia-Brayton.
Quick question. Thanks for that report, Jessica. And this applies for adult businesses currently permitted and those in the future seeking a permit to do so. If at any point they become non-compliant with the ordinance, you indicated that the way that is dealt with is through our code enforcement process, which is struggling thin now because of our need for additional personnel in this area. What would trigger the code enforcement to look into any violations? Would it be a complaint from a constituent? What would trigger that process?
So I can talk about, when it was in CED. So when code enforcement was triggered now, it was based on a complaint based.
Okay.
And so they would hear something and they'd go actually inspect it and see if there was anything out of compliance.
Okay. And if we are unable to get out there, then it stays pending until we're able to address it. And are those periods, can they sometimes be very long? Or is that process a quick turnaround time?
So I think that, as they build up the staff in code enforcement, they're trying to respond to those complaints on a quicker turnaround time.
Sure.
I think there are some that they have to triage depending on the number of complaints and the type of complaint to ensure that they, hit those first. But there could be a delay of time for actually the code enforcement to go out there.
And okay, and then you indicated that there is or Jose might have referenced that they do have a hearing period. There's a grace period where the matter is reviewed, and I thought I heard someone say something about that.
There's a process. As far as issuing citations, you issue those as part of the code enforcement. But if you're going towards revoking, for example, or suspending a permit, there's a process established in the ordinance for an actual hearing. The hearings depend on the permit. The hearings could be in front of the city, the police chief, and then going to the city manager. Or if it's a business, the appeals may be even coming in front of the council.
Okay. So again, in my last question, we do not monitor compliance on a regular basis just because it's not feasible to do so for all of our businesses. That works on a complaint basis. A complaint is rendered, code enforcement process is initiated, and that is how it is managed.
With all current businesses, but if we had a new business application, staff would have to go through to apply that business license application and approve that, as well as make sure that the regulatory permit was completed prior to that business being open. But open businesses would have that process, yes.
I see. Thank you.
I have just a couple of clarifying questions regarding the regulatory permits operating standards page. Currently, background checks are not required?
Not for all employees, and so what is traditionally done has been just the owner.
All right. The installation of security cameras in parking lots of live entertainment businesses. So my understanding from that is I just take it as it reads. They're not required in stores or shops, only where there's live entertainment.
That is correct.
That's correct. All right. And 24-hour security, they would be required to maintain that themselves?
Correct.
All right. All right. Then lighting requirements. All right. Those are my questions. Any other questions from council members before I open the public hearing? All right. So I'll now open the public hearing. Are there any members of the public that would like to come forward regarding item 15, this item?
Loretta, no, I should not have come up here, but
Would you please speak right into the microphone? Thank you.
Okay, with you stating that, I will go ahead and state something else. And yes, you're smiling. What I would like to do is get every council member to start talking into those things. Maybe I am deaf, but you, sir, I could not understand hardly a word you were saying because you're talking to people up there, and her, I hear her all the time, and I think she's great. Some of you guys are, but some of you can't hear a darn thing you're saying. But now, mine truthfully may not be okay to ask, but on building codes, Does this come anything under this at all? If it does not, I'd like to request that the city do building codes on businesses and buildings of any kind in the city, because businesses are also on property lines. Is this right or wrong?
What we'll do this evening is hear from you, and then we will, I will ask Scotty Douglas to get your information so that we can address your questions all together.
Okay, but then if it ever does, tell it over this thing too. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right.
Mayor, council, I usually won't speak about stuff like this. However, there should be a more extensive background check on all employees in this category. One reason is because sex offenders, they like to congregate at these facilities, and they should not be allowed to be an employee because that's usually another tool to be utilized for connections for other nefarious activities that I feel. So I would highly recommend to do, to put into place background checks on all of them. Also, I don't know if you guys, if they're gonna plan on doing a inspection unannounced, but I would highly recommend it because eventually, I take it as, it's like the massage parlors that are always popping up everywhere. Yeah, some people might be there for one reason, but there's other, like I said, other people that do show up for nefarious reasons. And that is a concern. We don't want Modesto to be known for marijuana grows and adult sex activities. We want it to be known as a community for families and kids. And so these are some serious concerns. I'm not an advocate for adult shops because if they're gonna do this kind of activity, they could order that stuff online and do it in private. It's just another tool that is always utilized for nefarious reasons that could create a bigger problem for the city of Modesto. We don't want prostitution to start popping up if there's not things put in place to be more stringent with these businesses. So thank you, and hopefully it'll become more restrictive. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public that would like to speak during this public hearing time on item 15? All right, seeing none, I will close public comments. Are there any comments from council members? Seeing none, I would have a motion introducing and waiving the first reading of an ordinance repealing and replacing Modesto Municipal Code Title V, Chapter 9, providing definitions, permitting requirements, and operating standards for adult-oriented businesses, along with adding permitting provisions for adult performers and non-performers at adult-oriented businesses, and amending Title 10, Chapter 3, Article 3 regarding definitions for adult-oriented businesses. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Oh, excuse me, go ahead.
And can the motion just be as amended? There was a slight change in section 59201 related to hours.
All right.
Move to approve as amended.
As amended. We have a motion by Councilmember Ricky.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Williams. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Vice Mayor Alvarez.
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky.
Aye.
Councilmember Bavaro.
Aye.
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
Councilmember Wright.
Aye.
Councilmember Scudero Brayton.
Aye.
And Mayor Swallen.
Aye. Carries, motion carries unanimously. All right, next on the agenda is new business. Item 16, consider accepting the Citizen Salary Setting Commission 2024 recommendations for the mayor and council members' salaries and setting a public hearing for the May 14th, 2024 council meeting to consider an ordinance amending the salaries pursuant to Modesto Charter Section 703. And Jan Viss, the Salary Setting Commission Chair, will present this item. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. It's good to be here. My name's Jan Viss, and I had the privilege of chairing this commission. And this evening, two commissioners are here. One is Sandy Sutton, and the other is Julie Exhausted. Yes. And then Colleen Preston also served, as well as Abby Chavez Hernandez, but they were not able to attend tonight. So want to also acknowledge the city staff that we worked with, particularly Attorney Sanchez, City Clerk Nayaris Perez, and the Director of Human Resources, Christina Algers. They were just a pleasure to work with. We gave them homework assignments, and at the next meeting, they had thoroughly prepared and provided us all the information that we requested. So that was really a pleasure to work with them. And then we want to thank you for appointing this commission and also for your servant leadership in this community. We value it, and we know how hard you work. So thank you for that. Oh, I need to click the button here. Okay, some background. The City of Modesto Charter, Article 7, Section 703, is the compensation, sets the compensation for elected officials. It establishes the Citizen Salary Setting Commission, and it requires that there are 5 qualified electors residing within the city and appointed by the council. Meeting requirements, they meet between March 1 and April 30 on even-numbered years. The last meeting was convened in 2014. We had some conversation about that and really want to encourage the council to meet as required by the charter, which is every 2 years. And the current commission, we met 9 times, and we were unanimous in our recommendations. Salary guidelines. The salary of the mayor shall be no more than 50% of the salary for a Superior Court judge in Stanislaus County. The cap for that would be $119,239. The salary of a council member shall be no more than 50% of the median family income for Modesto Metropolitan Statistical Area, and the cap there is $36,687. Current salary status. The salaries for both the mayor and council members have not increased since 2008. The mayor's current salary is $43,200 per year, and the council member's current salary is $24,000 per year. Recommendations and methodology. The final recommendations of the commission is that the mayor's salary shall be no more than $54,000 a year or $4,500 a month, and the council member's salary shall be no more than $30,000 a year or $2,500 a month. So we looked at a lot of data in our decision making. First of all, we looked at San Joaquin Valley cities, and this is for the mayor. The high was $141,520, and the low was $6,000 annually, for an average of $51,352. Stanislaus County cities, the high annual was $8,400, and the low was $3,000, for an average of $4,232. Then we looked at similar charter cities by population throughout California. And the high for that was $122,918, and the low was $12,956, with a median annual income of $20,482. And then we looked at similar charter cities that had a similar budget as the city of Modesto. And the high there for a mayor was $79,608, and a low was $9,600, for a median annual income of $26,808. Then we looked at data for council members. In San Joaquin Valley cities, the high was $85,100, and the low was $4,800, with an average annual salary of $29,865. In Stanislaus County cities, the high was $6,000, the low was $1,200, for an annual average of $4,115. Then when we looked at charter cities that had similar populations as Modesto. The high was $28,058. The low was $1,101, with an annual median average of $18,338. And then finally, we looked at charter cities with similar budgets as the city of Modesto. And the high there was $79,608. The low was $9,600, with a median annual salary of $27,479. And then we had conversations about other areas. We had conversations about what it means to be in public service, duties and requirements of the mayor and council members, and then expenses. And probably one of the most common conversations we had was about what we value as a culture of public service in our community. And what we value is volunteer work. We had the Friends of the Library talk tonight, and how many hours do they volunteer for their work. We thought about those who volunteer in public service and those who receive compensation, and how those are both very valuable and make Modesto the great city that it is. And that includes people who serve on nonprofit boards, at schools, animal rescue organizations, the grand jury, those who serve the homeless population, faith-based communities, and we could go on and on about how many people serve that don't have a public face in our community. And that we just really wanted to talk about that, how important that is. And then we also recognize that council members and the mayor are reimbursed when they are doing city business, just as city employees are reimbursed when they are actually performing, I think the terminology is expenses incurred related to official city business. So we noted that as well. And then we looked at some general Modesto statistics. We've grown by about 16,000 residents since 2008, so we have approximately 218,000 residents. We're the 19th largest city in California. We're number 145 best places to live out of 150 largest metropolitan areas across the country. We have a median household income of $73,375. And median salary of all employed Modestans is $59,446. And now I will turn it over to Attorney Sanchez.
Perfect. I think somebody turned down my mic last time, so let me speak a little closer into it. The item before you, and I think that Chair Viss did a great job of covering the process already, but just kind of walking the council through kind of the options as well when recommendations are given. As earlier stated, the Citizen Salary Setting Commission provides their final recommendations to the council by April 30th of even number years. That's tonight's agenda item, is to provide the formal recommendation. After the formal recommendation is provided, the council has options. The option is to accept the recommendations and approve a salary of up to that amount, or the council can go ahead and set a salary lower than the recommendation provided, but the council cannot set a recommendation or approve a salary that's higher than the recommended salary from the Salary Setting Commission. Any increases to salary need to be done by ordinance. So that's why you see the item, two motions for the item today. One of them is accepting the recommendation from the Citizen Salary Setting Commission, and the second motion is to actually set a public hearing for that ordinance. Any changes to salary are required by ordinance, and the ordinance itself requires a 20-day public hearing notice, and notice that public hearing notice being in the paper for 20 days. So staff has already set that in motion if the council were to provide that direction. And I'm happy to answer any questions regarding the process or council's options at this point.
All right. Thank you very much, and please stay
Yes,
there
and
in
we
case
have
someone.
yes. Oh, and we did, I should probably read the motion.
I will do that.
Oh, you will do that. Okay, very good.
When the time comes for us to vote. So first, there'll be questions from all of us. Then we will open it to the public, and then we can make comments and then make the motion. But questions at this time, and I have Councilmember Scudia Brayton.
Thank you, Mayor. My first question is for Jose. In terms of the process you just articulated and what options we have before us tonight, is there not an option, because I did not hear you say so, for any opportunity for the Salary Setting Commission to reconvene to discuss any matter that might be presented here today, to come back and perhaps have an alternate recommendation, because we're hearing this all for the first time.
So the as far as the charter states, and I'm trying to find the exact language, but that the changes are not made after the recommendation is final. And I'm trying to find that section. Upon receiving the final recommendations from the commission, the council may adopt the compensation as recommended by the commission, may adopt compensation in a lower amount, but in no case may the compensation be higher. And I'm sorry, I'm just trying to find, there's a section related to after the commission, Salary Setting Commission, provides their recommendation, it's final. I'll find that.
I have so many questions that I was going to ask the chair. Can I just, and then he'll have
Sure,
time.
go right
Okay,
ahead.
thank you, Chair Viss. This was a heavy lift. It was an important lift, and you and your commission did it, and I thank you for that. You convened 9 times. That's a lot. How many? The meetings were an hour longer or so?
Or so, yes.
Or so. That's a lot. So thank you for doing that. And it was like starting from scratch, because you all hadn't met the commission in a long time. So again, thank you, because you're much appreciated. In these 9 meetings, were they Brown Acted meetings, or were they open to the public?
They were all Brown Act, and they were all open to the public. And we also had 2 hearings here in this chambers that were advertised.
Would you mind sharing with me just a high level, how was the public comment? Was there a lot of public input? What was the overall sentiment of this topic?
There was not a lot of public input.
Mm-hmm.
I would say there were 2 individuals that did not feel that there should be an increase, and 1 individual that thought it should be to the max.
Opposite extreme, I see. And how were the meetings noticed?
Ms. Perez, you can probably answer that.
They were noticed in the paper. There was hearing notices required. Those required a 10-day hearing notice, as well as there were quite a few social media posts as well.
Okay, thank you very, very much. And specific to your recommendations, did the commission, the percent that you're recommending both for the council and for the mayor positions, are the increase, the proposed increase, are those in the same percent for both? The percent of increase? Okay.
They are. I wouldn't say exactly, but when we looked at it, it really boils down to, we didn't plan this, but when you look at if there had been an increase from 2012 up to today, it would have been an average of just a little bit over 2% a year. So it's a 25% increase from what it is now.
So a 25% from the 24,000 base for the council, and
from 2012,
and then as well as 24% base from what? Or not 24%, but
there has not been an increase since 2012. So when you look at our recommendations, in essence, it's a 2% increase since 2012, if you were looking at it.
But for
yearly.
both the council and the mayor?
Yes.
Okay, I see. Of course, the amounts are different because the base salary is different.
Correct.
Okay, and Did the commission discuss proposing and attaching medical benefits in part or in substitute to a salary? This is a scenario that other municipalities and their councils have. It's interesting, since I've been in this position as council, I've learned that every council is so uniquely different. Some have exclusively only a salary. It's $200-300 a month. Some it's $75,000 a year. Some don't have any salary at all and only have medical benefits. So some don't have any of those. So they're all across the board. So did the commission discuss or explore attaching medical benefits?
We explored what other counties or cities did, and we had some discussion, but we didn't pursue it in terms of recommending for medical.
My last question is, I don't know if the charter allows for this, or if you did this, or if not, why not, in interviewing and getting anecdotal data from existing council members?
We did. We did receive letters from certain council members, and we did take that into consideration.
Is that something you sought?
Yes.
And how did you do that?
Diane sent, I believe, an email out to everyone for input, and there was about a week's notice, a week's time period to get that submitted to us.
I see. Okay, that's my questions. Thank you again for your
Yes.
service. Much appreciated.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And Councilmember, maybe if I could answer that question. The Charter 703D does state, when such final recommendation has been submitted to the council, it shall not thereafter be amended by the commission.
All right, Councilmember Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Jen, and for your committee for probably one of the committees that nobody wants to serve on. Thank you for you guys' time. My question, I'm just curious, for the person that wanted the max increase for the salaries, what was their reasoning for it?
It was around equity, feeling that if there was a maximum set for an income, that more people would be able to apply for the position.
So the feeling was that limited income now really disqualifies a lot of individuals from wanting to seek public office, because it just financially, you've got to support a family, or you have bills that you have to pay. Correct?
That was the perspective, yes.
To open it up more to more individuals. Thank you.
All right, any other questions regarding item 16 from council members? All right, seeing none, I will ask members of the public, open this up to the public. Are there any members of the public that would like to come forward regarding this item? Seeing none, I will close public comments and ask council for comments. Councilmember Bavaro.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commission, for your hard work. Having served on the California Citizens Compensation Commission for 4 years, setting the salaries and benefits for the 8 constitutional officers and 120 legislative electives, I fully appreciate the research that you had to go through and all your meetings and coming up to coming up to your presentation tonight. I was contacted by the clerk, but I purposely did not want to respond. I think it was best to let you be independent, to not have any input from me personally as a council member, and whatever you decided is whatever your recommendation is to the council is what I will accept. And again, thank you for your service and work.
Councilmember Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. I too would like to congratulate and thank the committee for all the hours. You said 9 meetings at about 2 hours each, so 18 hours, almost a full week's worth of work. But more so than that, I'm sure you took that home with you. You took it to heart. It was unbiased. And I, too, like Councilmember Bavaro, stayed way away from any questions from anybody on this matter due to the fact of it being so close to us. But thank you for your service and thank you for your recommendation.
All right, Councilmember Ricky.
Thanks, Mayor. Well, first of all, I want to thank you guys for all your hard work on this. This is a difficult subject, and I want to acknowledge that. It's also kind of awkward, as Councilmember Williams, stated so well, and Councilmember Bavaro also. But I think it's important that I also advocate for other people, and I don't like these recommendations. I don't think what other cities are doing is the most important component of deciding this. And these recommendations feel really tone deaf to me. It starts with a charter that assumes that council members are part-time workers, which they aren't, and limits pay in a way that I think is kind of irrelevant. And I think the recommendation finishes with a lack of empathy when it comes to the issue of equity. Thanks to these recommendations, we'll continue to get professionals, retired people, or people who don't work. And the overwhelming majority of Modestans are out. This recommendation doesn't even keep up with inflation. And I think the worst recommendation is the one for the mayor, who works 12 hours a day, but is still considered basically a part-time worker. And I just don't love the way the system is. And I don't think it's anything to say about the committee personally, but it's just the system that we have right now prevents people from serving. And that's just not great.
All right, Vice Mayor Alvarez.
Thank you, Mayor. I too want to thank the committee and the commission for all their hard work. Even as Councilmember Williams stated, even after you leave the chambers, after you leave the office, you take it home and you let it marinate, and you sit with it and you reflect. And so I appreciate all the time and hours that you got put into this. I also want to echo what my colleague, Councilmember Ricky, had just mentioned in terms of equity. I agree with all the points he made, specifically in terms of being tone deaf. It's not your fault. It's just the system that we have to work with, but I want to acknowledge that. And I thank Councilmember Ricky for acknowledging that as well. It does limit the amount of folks who are interested in serving, are interested in exercising their civic duty, running for office. But those that are creative enough to make it happen do have to sacrifice, as was stated by all of us up here, certain aspects of our either our social life, or family life, or our professional life to serve. So it's unfortunate that the system is set up that way, but I do thank you guys for the hours that you really put in here. Thank you.
All right, any other comments from council members? I'll make a few brief comments. First of all, I appreciate the commission member's service, and I was most delighted to hear that you recognize the volunteers in this community. And I know that all of you on this commission are involved in so many ways in our community and give freely of your time, and this is just one more example of it. It is interesting just to note that so many years past, I honestly had so many people that approached me about this very topic. And we're very passionate about the fact that there should be more opportunity for people to run for office. And I do tend to agree with that. However, I always maintained that this position, elected positions, need to be doable by a single mother with 6 children with a full-time job. I think that we have to adapt to that. And I think that I'm looking at our council, and I don't like to point anybody out individually, but we certainly all have very unique situations. No, I'm not saying that at all. But we all have really unique positions in life that I'm in awe of, quite frankly. Councilmember Scudia Brayton, she openly mentioned it tonight, that she has a special needs adult son who requires 24-hour round-the-clock care that she manages, as well as having a child in elementary school. Councilmember Alvarez, right next to her, has a great full-time job. But I think what we all do is respect where each of us are and are really, quite frankly, in awe of what we're able to accomplish in the amount of time that we do it. We're all very engaged. And I did reply with some very basic comments about what I felt like was important. And I know that I have complete faith, for lack of a better word, that you did the best that you could under the circumstances. You took in the information that you had and made the best decision possible. So I'm really grateful for that. Those are my comments. Are there any other comments from council members? All right, seeing none, I have two motions. We'll vote separately. First is a motion accepting the Citizens Salary Setting Commission 2024 recommendations for the mayor and council members' salaries. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Vice Mayor Alvarez. Second by Councilmember Bavaro. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Thanks. Vice Mayor Alvarez.
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky.
Aye.
Councilmember Bavaro.
Aye.
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
Councilmember Wright.
Aye.
Councilmember Scudia Brayton.
Aye.
And Mayor Zwallen.
Aye. So that carries unanimously. Next is a motion setting a public hearing for the May 14th, 2024 council meeting and directing the city attorney to draft an ordinance amending the salaries for the mayor and council members pursuant to Charter Section 703. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Bavaro.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Alvarez. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Vice Mayor Alvarez.
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky.
Aye.
Councilmember Bavaro.
Aye.
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
Councilmember Wright.
Aye.
Councilmember Scudia Brayton.
Aye.
And Mayor Zwallen.
Aye. That also carries unanimously. Are there any matters too late for the agenda? Seeing none, I'm calling this meeting of the City Council to be adjourned.